frontliners to save the lives of the human. And I would like to pay my heartfelt condolences to the family members of the doctors who sacrificed their lives, and those who are now fighting for this situation. And with the permission of the chair, now I am going to start my presentation. Today, my topic of presentation is first trimester obstetric ultrasound and screening of anomalies and chromosomal abnormalities. First trimester is the very important period of an embryo's life, and it is the period of organogenesis. First trimester sonographic diagnosis traditionally focused on evaluation of the growth by serial examination, differentiate normal from the abnormal gestation. Since the advent of transvaginal sonography, which affords enhanced resolution over transabdominal sonography with earlier visualization of the gestational sac and its content, early identification of the embryonic cardiac activity, and improved visualization of the embryonic and fetal structures. Now, I will tell something about the guideline for the first trimester ultrasound. In general, we have to look for the gestational sac, location of the pregnancy, whether it is intrauterine or extrauterine, and the gestational age, especially for the aneuploidy scan, is between 11 to 13 weeks 6 days, and the crown rump length of the embryo must be within 45 to 84 millimeter. We have to look for the yolk sac, embryo or the fetus, the cardiac activity on M mode ultrasound, the number of the fetus and the immunicity and chorionicity of the fetus. Now, for the first trimester screening, we have first emphasis we have to give the screening for trisomy 21 and other chromosomal defects, early anatomical evaluation of the whole fetus as a whole, and it is very much skilled radiologist required for these and a specialized machine, diagnosis of the multiple gestation, and defining the chorionicity and immunicity. And it is also a very important first predictor of preeclampsia. And the first trimester screening, we can term it as aneuploidy screening or nuchal translucency screening or anti-scan. We can term any of them, but all within the first trimester screening. Then, what is the main objective of this screening? The main objective of the screening is to identify the prior risk for those who has the risk of developing a chromosomally abnormal fetuses. And that's why we have to know about the prior risk. The prior risk is what? Every woman has the risk of baby being affected by the chromosomal defect. This is termed as the prior risk. And the prior risk is dependent on the maternal age and gestation. Maternal age, when it is below 25 years, the risk is very low. It is about 1 in a 1400 pregnancy. But when the mother's age is above 35 years, it increases even 1 in a 400. And if the mother's age is above 40, it may be even 1 in the 150 to 200. So the risk is directly proportional to the maternal age. The more the maternal age, more the risk of baby being affected by the chromosomal defect. The individual patient specific risk is calculated by multiplying the prior risk with the series of likelihood ratio. Likelihood ratio is what? It is for a given sonographic or biochemical measurement, which is calculated by dividing the percentage of chromosomally abnormal fetus with these parameters divided by normal fetuses with the same measurement. And this percentage is known as the likelihood ratio. And to calculate the risk, every time a test is carried out, the prior risk is multiplied by the likelihood ratio so that we can calculate a new risk, and which then becomes the prior risk for the next test. So the prior risk and likelihood ratio is very much important for those who have the risk of having, who are in the high risk, who are in the intermediate risk, and who are in the low risk. For this, we have to identify the risk for the next pregnancy. This is a overall first trimester ultrasound images. We can see here We can see here the yolk sac, the embryonic, the fetal pole, the CRL of the fetus, and you can see here the umbilical cord, the amniotic cavity, and the CRL as a whole, the coronal view of the face at about 11.5 weeks of gestation, and it is the 13-week gestational fetus, and we can see the nuchal translucency here. Now, the early pregnancy failure, it is one of the most important role in the ultrasound for the first trimester is to identify the early pregnancy that have failed. Approximately 50% of the miscarriage is caused by the chromosomal abnormalities. So loss rate are increased with increased maternal age and the prior history of early pregnancy failure. If the mother তার যদি age increased থাকে এবং pregnancy failure prior history থাকে, they are more risk in developing the chromosomal abnormality and miscarriage. This is some diagnostic finding of the early pregnancy failure when the CRL of the embryo is 7 millimeter without a fetal heart rate and the mean sac diameter of 25 millimeter without an embryonic pole is a diagnosis of early pregnancy failure. Now our main focus is the fetal survey for anomalies in the first trimester. A complete fetal survey can be performed by means of the vaginal and transabdominal probe with a pregnancy that is less than 14 weeks. That means we already mentioned it 11 weeks to 13 weeks 6 days. This is the optimum time for the anomaly or aneuploidy scan. Anomalies that can be readily diagnosed at the late first trimester are anencephaly and the cystic hygroma. The chromosomal abnormalities, these are the unbalanced chromosomal anomalies that generate an abnormal pattern of development and usually determine miscarriage. And chromosomal abnormality occur in 0.1 to 0.2% of all live birth. And most frequently, prenatal chromosomal anomalies are X chromosomal monosomy, trisomies of the chromosome like 21, 18, 13, 16, 8, triploidy and tetraploidy. Identification of the chromosomal anomalies can be done by prenatal screening and diagnosis. And this prenatal screening is biochemical, sonographic or molecular. Now, aneuploidy is the condition in which there may be a loss or an addition of the chromosome within the normal chromosome. This is termed as the aneuploidy, and that in the presence of an abnormal number of the chromosome in a cell, which are most commonly aneuploidy, screened for trisomy 21, that is Down syndrome, trisomy 13, Patau syndrome, trisomy 18 is the Edwards syndrome, and monosomy X, which is termed as 45X or the Turner syndrome, and other triploidy. These are most commonly encountered in our day-to-day practice. And the sonographic screening, first trimester, the most important sonographic marker is the nuchal translucency. And now what is the nuchal translucency? It is the sonographic appearance of the collection of the fluid just under the skin in the back of the fetal neck, which is known as the nuchal translucency. And the lucency is thought to represent the mesenchymal edema and is often associated with distended jugular lymphatics. Now, NT or nuchal translucency, it is normally increases with advanced gestational age. Therefore, the measurement is compared to the crown rump length. So, we have already mentioned that the CRL is started from 45 millimeter up to 84 millimeter. So, within this CRL, the gestational age of vary করবে ক্রাউন লাম্প লেন্থের সাথে এবং সেটাকে আমাদের পার্সেন্টেজ করে দেখতে হবে এনটি তার অ্যাকর্ডিং টু দ্য গ্রোথ সিআরএল অনুযায়ী 95th percentile উপরে আছে কিনা। Any NT greater than 95th percentile should be considered as thickened. The normal nuchal translucency জন্য একটা কাট অফ ভ্যালু রাখা হয়েছে, it is up to 2.5 millimeter. The greater the weight may indicate the Down syndrome and trisomy, but are also seen with other chromosomal abnormalities যেমন হচ্ছে congenital heart disease অথবা অন্য other abnormalities এর সাথে associated থাকতে পারে increased nuchal translucency. So we have to we have to measure it very clearly and very technically. So the techniques for NT are the CRL must be within 45 to 84 millimeter, and the fetus must be in the neutral position and away from the anion, and the zoom the image such that the fetal head and upper thorax occupy the whole screen. The zygoma must not be seen. Take the larger measurement. Two transverse bar of the caliper should be on white line. Now, this is a chart of CRL where we have shown that from 40 millimeter up to 84 millimeter, and according to the centile chart, it is 5th percentile, 50th and 95th percentile. We should consider it significantly thickened when when this measurement crosses the 95th percentile value. That means we can take an example like this. If the fetus is at 45 millimeter at CRL, his 95th percentile 45 millimeter, 95th percentile, the nuchal translucency will be 2.2 millimeter. If it is above 2.2 millimeter, then we will say that yes, the NT is thickened. And this is the correct measurement for taking the NT measurement to echogenic line, and the bar should be inside the to echogenic line. This is, yes, is the correct measurement. Now, we will say something about the combined first trimester screening risk. And the main objective of this aneuploidy scan is to find out the risk for who has the risk of developing a Down's fetus. And we have to composite the double marker, that is the sonograph, that is the maternal serum markers, and the nuchal translucency, nasal bone, ductus venosus and tricuspid regurgitation combinedly to screen for the risk of aneuploidy. And according to this, those who are high risk, at least 99:1, that means at least 99 pregnancy, there is one chance of having a aneuploidy fetus, that is the high risk patient. And for them, আমাদেরকে screening এর মধ্যে তাদের জন্য invasive testing এ যেতে হবে, that means chorionic villus sampling. And second, and another technique is amniocentesis. Now, who are in the intermediate risk, the risk between 99 fetus up to 999, those are within this range, অর্থাৎ less than 1000, 99 থেকে 999 children মধ্যে one chance of being having a chromosomally abnormal fetus. They are in the intermediate risk. For the intermediate risk people, they have to go for quadruple test in the second trimester and genetic sonogram, that means second trimester anomaly scan. This is the general protocol for the combined screening and identifying the risk for the aneuploidies. Then the low risk, who are in the low risk, at least 1 in 1,000 or less than 1 in 1,000. অর্থাৎ 1000 এর চেয়েও কম চান্স আছে একটা প্রেগন্যান্সি এখানে ডাউনস হওয়ার, they are in the low risk, and for them তাদের জন্য আমাদের জেনেটিক সোনোগ্রাম, that means anomaly scan will be sufficient. Now there are many countries, they are adapting the screening protocol for them. And one of the screening protocol for our neighboring country, India, they are using this protocol for screening of trisomy at 11 to 14 weeks. Firstly, they have risk estimate by only ultrasound and nuchal translucency and other markers, fetal NT, nasal bone, ductus venosus, tricuspid regurgitation at about 12 weeks of pregnancy. This can be done in a single scan, and then who are in the very high risk, this group will go to the chorionic villus sampling. They are in the very low risk, just reassurance of the patient, and we can release this patient. And those who are in the borderline risk, অর্থাৎ যাদের সম্ভাবনা আছে 99 to 999 এর মধ্যে having a chromosomally abnormal fetus, তাদের ক্ষেত্রে আমাদের ফার্দার স্ক্রিনিং ইজ রেকমেন্ডেড। কিরকম? তাদের জন্য আমাদের ডাবল মার্কার টেস্ট করতে হবে, লাইক ফ্রি বিটা এসসিজি, প্যাপে, এবং যারা হাইলি সাসপিশিয়াস দে উইল গো ফর NIPT, অর্থাৎ নন ইনভেসিভ প্রিনেটাল টেস্টিং. This is a non-invasively testing done other than invasive test, and where the cell-free fetal DNA is taken and chromosome analysis is done, and which is about 99% correct for identifying the aneuploidies. Next, another protocol for trisomy at about 11 to 14 weeks, which is a UK protocol, and they are using nuchal translucency and dual marker for all. Fetal nuchal translucency and maternal free beta HCG and PAPE, these are the two important indicators for trisomy. And if the free beta HCG is high and PAPE is low, they are very high risk and they will go to the, after genetic counseling, they will go to the chorionic villus sampling. And those who are low risk, reassurance, those who are borderline, they should be further screened for nasal bone, ductus venosus and tricuspid regurgitations. These protocols are different from countries to countries, and the screening in the first trimester, the time of window may be within the 8 to 14 weeks, and ultrasound marker, the most frequently and most importantly used is the nuchal translucency. Two important biochemical marker is the free beta human chorionic gonadotropin, which will be high, and PEP-A, that means pregnancy associated plasma protein A, this will be significantly lower. And the marker combination, this is termed as the combined test. The biochemical screening for the first trimester screening between these days are most importantly PEP-A, which is decreased, and the free beta HCG, we already mentioned it will be increased, but PEP-A decreased, that signifies that এর ভবিষ্যতে pre-eclampsia একটি সম্ভাবনা আছে, কারণ এখানে প্লাসেন্টেশনটা ঠিকমতো হচ্ছে না, and free beta HCG is an important marker that these babies may develop aneuploidy. And there are some second trimester screening protocols also. This is termed as the triple and quadruple test. Triple test include the maternal serum alpha fetoprotein, then the unconjugated estriol, free or unconjugated human chorionic gonadotropin, and the another test is the inhibin, which is added in the quadruple test. The first trimester screening for aneuploidy, this is a protocol by the Society of Fetal Medicine India, and they have said that the nuchal translucency above 95th percentile for the CRL or 2.5 millimeter is considered as increased nuchal translucency, and according to the several studies, the sensitivity of NT alone for the detection of trisomy is around 60 to 70%. 60 to 70%, and combined screening with NT and serological markers have been used in various studies to found out to be more sensitive and either than that of the individual. And the detection rate is about 87, 85 and 82% in 11, 12 and 13 weeks of gestation. This is a mid-sagittal scan. We can see the fetus here and the nuchal translucency. This is the two echogenic line. This is the from inner to inner. This is the true measurement for the nuchal translucency. Now, the other pathophysiology that may causes the increased NT is the cardiac defect, sorry, venous congestion in the head and neck region, altered composition of the extracellular matrix, failure of the lymphatic drainage, অথবা fetal anemia, hyperproteinemia and fetal infection. The increased NT is commonly associated with trisomy 21, trisomy 18, 13, Turner syndrome, congenital heart disease and other some symptoms are associated with it. Increased nuchal translucency, maybe we can find with normal karyotype also. The majority will be have normal outcome, but larger the NT, the greater will be the worse the prognosis. And fetal echo and detailed anatomical evaluation is recommended then. In case of nuchal translucency, it is seen that it is directly proportional to the rate of aneuploidy, and if the NT is more than 3 millimeter, that should be considered significant, and in case of Down syndrome, it is generally above 3.5 millimeter up to 4.5 millimeter, but in case of Turner, it is even more than 8.5 millimeter. This is the normal nuchal translucency. The yellow bar inside this is the exact measurement, and this is the increased nuchal translucency. You can see here, increased nuchal translucency. fetal heart rate, sorry, in normal pregnancy, fetal heart rate increases from 110 to 170 beats per minute, and then 170 beats per minute, then gradually decreases 150 by 14 weeks. But in case of trisomy, heart rate also mildly increases. Trisomy 21, in trisomy 18, fetal heart rate is mildly decreased and it is below the 5th percentile, and trisomy 13, it is above 95th percentile in 85% of the fetuses. Then another important indicator is the nasal bone. It is an independent variable. Presence of nasal bone reduces the risk of aneuploidy about threefold, and the absence of nasal bone after 12 weeks, the CRL at 65 millimeter increases the risk of aneuploidy. It is found in about 67 to 73% of the trisomies and occurs in 1.5% of the euploid population. That means nasal bone is an indicator, and if it is absent, that it has an increased risk of having the aneuploidy. It should be more than 2.5 millimeter at first trimester and more than 2.8 millimeter at 15 weeks of gestation, more than 5.6 millimeter at 22 weeks of gestation. Many features with trisomy 21 have a small or absent nasal bone. The fetal nasal bone can be seen by ultrasound starting approximately 11 weeks of gestation থেকে দেখা যাবে, and first trimester nasal bone evaluation is technically very challenging. যদি nasal bone এর measurement below 2.5 percentile হয়, that should be considered significant. And fetus is imaged facing the transducer with the fetal face strictly in the midline. Here you can see the normal nasal bone here. This is the nasal tip and this is the normal nasal bone. You can see here there is no nasal bone here, so absent nasal bone, and this is the hypoplastic nasal bone. Then another important parameter is ductus venosus flow. The ductus venosus that directs the well oxygenated blood from the left umbilical vein to the coronary and cerebral circulation, bypassing the liver during the fetal circulation. And normal ductus venosus flow is always antegrade, and abnormal blood flow demonstrated as a reverse A wave in the ductus venosus and is seen in 80% of the fetus with trisomy 21 and 5% of the euploid fetuses. And 5% of the euploid fetuses. And you can see the normal ductus umbilical. This is the normal umbilical vein. This is the ductus venosus. The left umbilical vein draining to the ductus, and it bypassing the liver, it triggers the blood to the cerebral and coronary circulation. This is the normal triphagic wave pattern of the ductus venosus. We can see here the ventricular systole, the early diastole is the D and the atrial contraction is the A. This is the triphasic pattern of the normal ductus venosus. This is the normal ductus venosus spectral Doppler waveform. This is the ventricular systole, that means D. This is the V and this is the A wave. Now, an image of the flow through the ductus, we can see at the 12 week of gestation, there is a reversal of the A wave, increasing the risk for the aneuploidy. This is the reversal of the A wave. It is found in about 4% of the normal fetuses. It is also associated with increased risk for the chromosomal abnormality and cardiac defect, adverse perinatal outcome like fetal death, and however in about 80% of the cases where reversal of A wave, the pregnancy outcome is normal. So we have to look for the other parameters like increased nuchal translucency, is there any abnormal maternal serum screening test, and there is abnormal flow in the ductus. And another thing, if the ductus venosus PI is more than 95th percentile along with absent or reverse A wave, that always indicate that the baby may have a very adverse perinatal outcome and non-chromosomal other structural defects like severe cardiac defects. This is the reversal of the A wave. We can see here the reverse A wave. Another important parameter is the tricuspid flow. The magnification of the image should be such that the fetal thorax occupies the whole of the screen to locate the tricuspid flow. An apical 4-chamber view of the heart should be obtained, and the septal gate should be 2 to 3 millimeter and positioned across the tricuspid valve. The angle of insonation is less than 30 degree with IVS, and the criteria for the tricuspid flow is the sweep speed should be 2 to 3 millimeter per second so that the waveforms are widely spread. The sample volume should be placed across the valve at least 3 times in an attempt to interrogate the complete valve. And the tricuspid regurgitation is usually associated with 1% of the euploid fetuses may have tricuspid regurgitation, but in trisomy 21, it is about 55%, and in trisomy 18 and 13, 30% respectively. Here we can see the cursor across the tricuspid valve, and we have to interrogate the valve at least in 3 points. The angle of insonation will be less than 30 degree, and the window must be within 2 to 3 millimeters. Sample gate should be smaller, and then we can clearly appreciate the tricuspid regurgitation. This is the normal tricuspid flow, and this is the tricuspid regurgitation where there is the regurgitation jet can be seen at least যখন এটা হাফ অফ দ্য অ্যাট্রিয়াকে ক্রস করে যাবে, কারণ যখন ভেন্ট্রিকল কন্ট্রাক্ট করে তখন ট্রাইকাসপিড ভালভ ক্লোজারের ইনকম্পিটেন্সের জন্য রিগার্জিটেশন ইনটু দ্য অ্যাট্রিয়া হয়, এবং তখন আমরা যে ভেলোসিটিটা পাই সেটা যদি মোর দেন 80 সেন্টিমিটার পার সেকেন্ড হয়, দ্যাট শুড বি কনসিডার্ড অ্যাজ ট্রাইকাসপিড রিগার্জিটেশন. And this is also tricuspid regurgitation. Here you can see the spectrum is very large, and the other than these evaluation, there are some anatomical evaluation that we have to do during the first trimester. This is the 3 major diagnostic groups are always detectable, potentially detectable, and undetectable abnormalities. The always detectable group is anencephaly, A lobar holoprosencephaly, omphalocele, gastroschisis, body stalk abnormality, and megacystitis. An anencephaly is a defect of the closure of the anterior neural tube, which is characterized by the complete or partial absence of the forebrain. You can see here the absence of the forebrain, overlying skin, skull, meninges, everything is absent here, and fetal brain is exposed to the amniotic fluid and associated with spina bifida, facial and nasal clefts, and omphalocele. This is a multifactorial inheritance, and it is an invariably lethal condition. This is a fetus with anencephaly, illustrated the cerebrovasculosa. There are 3 types like acrania, exencephaly, and anencephaly. Acrania, you can see here, there is a calvaria is absent, so the brain is exposed, otherwise normal. But in exencephaly, some of the brain tissue are amorphous, but some of the brain tissues are absent. And in anencephaly, small central bulbs that representing the blood vessels of the brain, which withstand the damage from being moved against the uterine wall. This is the sonographic finding. The skull development is completed, we know, by the 10 weeks of development of the gestation in a normal fetus, but the brain may appear normal or having a very disordered shape like Mickey Mouse appearance. We can see the bilobe brain here, giving the Mickey Mouse appearance at about 11 to 14 weeks of gestation. And in the second trimester, we can find this frog-like appearance of the anencephalic fetus, and there is debris in the amniotic fluid due to the degenerated cortical tissue. This is a normal brain with calvaria. We can see here at about 12 weeks of development, this is normal calvaria, but acrania, you can see there is no calvaria here, and there is absence of calvarium. Then another important and most commonly encountered in our day-to-day practice is the A lobar holoprosencephaly, which is prevalence is 1 in 1300 prevalence, and 2/3 of the aneuploidy may be associated with A lobar holoprosencephaly, especially in trisomy 18 and 13, and in 1/3 of the euploidy. And if there is aneuploidy, then the recurrence is about 10%, and if the euploidy, then the recurrence risk is about 1%. And check for associated genomic conditions. The characteristic features are that there is absent midline structure, so there will be fused thalami, monoventricle, and additional some features like dorsal sac, displaced pancake cortical tissue, common facial features like hypothyroidism, single orbit, and proboscis cleft. And this should be diagnosed after 10 weeks because no midline structures are developed. And you can see here the fused thalami, here the fused thalami and single and the monoventricle. Another important condition is the cystic hygroma, the defective formation of the lymphatic system leading to the buildup of a lymph in the neck. And bilateral cysts developed in the posterior and lateral aspect of the neck, and it is due to the failure of the communication that normally develop between the jugular lymph sac with the internal jugular vein approximately at 5 to 6 weeks of gestation. So after 5 to 6 weeks, যদি normal fetal lymphatics টা jugular vein এর সাথে communicate করতে না পারে তখন cystic hygroma develop করে এবং it is associated with the chromosomal abnormality such as the Down syndrome, Turner trisomy 13-18, Klinefelter and other aneuploidies. This is the septated fluid collection in the subcutaneous tissue at the side and back of the neck, may extend towards the back if very large, even may exceed the size of the fetal skull, fetal anasarca, lymphedema, and fetal hydrops may be associated. We can see these cystic structures, cystic hygroma, and there is a diffuse subcutaneous edema here, and also we can appreciate the fetal ascites here, and it is consistent with the non-immune hydrops fetalis. And another axial view of the head of the 18 weeks fetus, and there is a large, extremely large multiseptated cystic hygroma that exceeded the size of the fetal skull. We can appreciate here these cystic spaces with large septations. This is a cystic hygroma and another cystic hygroma here. Now the physiological herniation, normally we know that our guts are normally developed at about the before the 10 weeks, and the fetal embryo, their gut is developed so rapidly so that it cannot accommodate within the abdomen. So few of the guts herniate through the umbilical ring into the abdominal cavity, which is normally less than 7 millimeter at any ways, but must be 10 millimeter less than 10 weeks. But if it is persist beyond 12 weeks, usually it contains the only the gut lobes, but never contain the liver. This is the normal physiological herniation. But what is an omphalocele? Due to the ventral body wall defect, if it persists beyond the 10 weeks and if persists more than 12 weeks, then it should be considered as omphalocele. It is homogeneous and rounded in contour and may contain the fetal liver. This is the fetus with exomphalos. You can see the exomphalos here, large rounded contour that containing the fetal liver. But exomphalos is of two types, that is exomphalos major and minor. Major, when the ventral body wall defect is smaller, is larger than 4 centimeter, it should be termed as major, and it is smaller than 4 centimeter, it is smaller. This is now, but you can see here the omphalocele, the protrusion of these from the ventral body wall along with the intestinal loops and the abdominal viscera like liver. But the difference is that it is covered with the amnion, the peritoneum, and also the Wharton's jelly. This is the omphalocele here. We can see the defect in the ventral body wall and herniation of the fetal gut loops as well as the liver. Now the gastroschisis, this is a defect due to a defect in the abdominal wall by definition, and herniation of the freely floating loops of the bowel, which is not covered by the membrane. And this is the difference with omphalocele, that it is not covered by the membrane, freely floating within the amniotic cavity, and increases clinically it increases the incidences less than 25 ages, but 0.3% of the risk may be associated with aneuploidy with gastroschisis, and 5% may be associated with other structural abnormalities. You can see the gastroschisis here, the freely floating gut loops without any amniotic membrane due to ventral body wall defect. Now, the first trimester screening, we have come to the end of our presentation. That at summary, we can say that first trimester screening is based on the detection of the maternal serum beta HCG and pregnancy associated plasma protein A. These are the serum biochemical marker taken from the maternal serum, which are very important for first trimester screening. Along with it, biochemical screening in the second trimester that will be required for the detection of alpha-fetoprotein, free beta HCG, unconjugated estriol, and inhibin A. The sonographic examination can be used in the first and second trimester, and in the first trimester, an ultrasound can identify the soft marker very accurately, like nuchal translucency, which is a sensitive and important indicator. And we know that nuchal translucency, if it is more than 3.5 millimeters, should be considered abnormal with absent nasal bone or hypoplastic nasal bone, reverse or abnormal flow in the ductus, and ductus venosus PI is more than 95th percentile with a tricuspid regurgitation. There will be an increased risk of aneuploidy, and the detection for aneuploidy is about 95% accurate with a fewer 2.5% false positive rate. The obstetric sonography, in conjunction with the maternal serum marker, has become a powerful tool in the assessment of aneuploidy risk in the first trimester. And the presence of the multiple soft markers at the routine morphological ultrasound has a greater than addictive effect on identifying the risk for the aneuploidy, and should always be prompt referral to a tertiary maternal fetal medicine unit for further imaging and testing. And with this, I have concluded my presentation and my acknowledgement to the Society of Fetal Medicine, the Bangladesh Society of Radiology and Imaging, Society of Fetal Maternal Radiology, all the members and of our team, and Dr. Nashid Amir, and my darling daughter Fabiha Nawal Anushka. Thank you.